After the release of Tekken 5 in 2004, the series would take its biggest jump yet in terms of graphics, gameplay and a bigger focus of online play. Tekken 6 would see the start point for the series on the 7th generation of consoles, but this time around, not only on the PlayStation, but also the Xbox 360. Would Tekken 6 end up being the perfect compilation of everything the series had to offer in HD, or would the series struggle to find its feet in a new online focused world? And that is why today I'm looking at Tekken 6 on the Xbox 360. I couldn't record it on the PS3 because my PS3 is a bit awkward with recording, so I've just had to stick to the Xbox. So please don't hate me for playing Tekken on an Xbox. I know it's weird, I know it's strange, but that's the way I've got to record it. And just a little disclaimer, this is going to be the first Tekken game where I'm not entirely positive about the whole game. Just know this is my own personal experience with the game. If you have any other opinions, if this is your favourite in the series, then leave a comment down below. What did you like about it? But yeah, just know that this is my own personal experience and I'm not speaking for everyone when it comes to this game. But yeah, without further ado, we might as well just get straight into it. Let's have a look. Tekken 5 ended up being a massive success, becoming the third best selling game in the series, overtaking both Tag and 4 in the process. Even though this was great for the series, this would also be the final game to be released on the PS2. Shortly after it, it would be followed by its PSP port, Dark Resurrection, which also sold well, but in 2006 it was finally time to draw attention to the next game in the series. The first thing I thought about when it came to Tekken 6 was this E3 trailer that released that same year, which the footage you're seeing now is the best quality that exists of it. It was only ever shown at E3 and I kinda love the fact that this is the only way you get to watch it. I have so much nostalgia for this as it was one of the first ever videos I remember being obsessed with on YouTube, watching it over and over again, but I'd have to wait another 3 years before I ever got the chance to play it, and a lot can change in 3 years. In that time, I hate to admit it, but I became an Xbox kid. Taking an interest in games like Halo 3 and Gears of War, I was slowly growing out of my love for Tekken. Plus, the game was always going to be a PlayStation exclusive. They'd never bring it over to the Xbox. Hurrah, you bastard, you've pulled me right back in. And on Christmas Day 2009, I finally got to play Tekken 6. So what did I think of it back then? I do remember enjoying it for about 10 minutes. Then I played a lot of Assassin's Creed 2 after that. Tekken 6 starts the same way as every game in the series, with the FMV intro, but something's a bit off this time. The only thing I actually remember about this intro is that annoying crow at the start. Oh, stupid annoying thing. Okay, stop. Anyway, the main difference in the... Right, that's it, I'm not talking about this game anymore. Here you go, here's Tekken Tag 2. Doesn't it look decent? Annoying crows aside, the main problem I have with Tekken 6's intro is its slow build up into pretty much nothing. The music is anticlimactic, not much action until about 50 seconds in, and it just doesn't have the same impact that Tekken 4 and Tekken 5's intros had. They made you really want to play the game and really stuck in your head. This one is a bit of a bore fest. Hello and welcome back to the FIFA 20 Warsaw Career Mode. I'm DannyBYT and this is my Warsaw Career Mode on FIFA 20. The main focus of the intro seems to be introducing you to the new characters and who they are, but when it's as boring as this, it doesn't really give them the best introduction. Marduk, Christy and Steve's introductions in Tekken 4, and mainly Asuka and Feng's in Tekken 5, will always stick out to me because of just how good the intros in those games were, but this one, I don't know, there's really nothing memorable about it. Except for that fucking thing. When it comes to game modes, Tekken 6 is what I would describe as bare bones. It comes with all the modes you'd expect at this point, like arcade, time attack, survival, and a sort of new mode, Ghost Battle, which is just a new way to take on endless CPU opponents. It's not the worst selection in the world, but there's nothing here that seems new or exciting, just very basic options. I think one of the main reasons for this was that Tekken 6 released at a time when online gaming was slowly becoming the main selling point of any game, especially fighting games. Even to this day, online play is the foundation of any new release, and it makes sense. Even back then, the developers would have probably taken less time making new single player modes and more time making sure they had a decent online mode for players upon release. So how is the online play? Well, I'm not too sure. Obviously the game is almost 15 years old at this point, so there is no way I'd be able to find a match. So yeah, sadly I can't comment on the online side of things in this video, but for future games that still have online capabilities, I'll definitely be looking at them. There is one more mode I need to talk about, and it's a big one. That is Scenario Campaign, Tekken 6's answer to Tekken Force, and also the franchise's first ever fully fledged story mode. On the surface it's just Tekken Force, but once you get into it there's a lot more going on. Then you realise the mode has a whopping 35 levels, and even some hidden ones, which I've only just found out about since making this video. And the one thing to know about this mode is it can get addictive. I played it sometime last year to open up a few levels ready for when I came to make the video, and I got a bit carried away. And by that I mean I completed the whole fucking thing. So what's so special about this beefed up version of Tekken Force? Well, there's a few things. One of the main things is of course the story. Even though I do have a few critiques about Tekken 6's story, I can't deny that a lot of effort went into making the Scenario Campaign's cutscenes and dialogue, with every single playable character getting unique dialogue at the start of each level and when talking to the boss at the end. Seeing as this mode already has a set main character who you see in the cutscenes anyway, the developers didn't need to add this unique dialogue, but they did, and it adds a lot of replay value to the mode. Not for me though, I just use Kazuya as a human fidget spinner 90% of the time. The levels themselves are great, with not only the unique locations you'll be fighting in, but also the unique enemy types you'll be fighting, depending on the stage. You'll have different enemies with different looks and fighting styles, who actually seem to be a lot more responsive than older versions of Tekken Force. The mode also has different power-ups this time around. Obviously we see the return of Chicken, which works as health, but also drinks that have different power-ups to help you through the waves of enemies. Also weapons like miniguns and flamethrowers, which I never thought I'd see in a Tekken game. Hold on, I've just had an idea. This isn't gonna work. This isn't gonna work. This isn't gonna work. Right, that's it. I take everything back. This is the greatest game ever. It deserves to be higher on the tier list. There we go. Greatest Tekken game of all time. There's also Elisa, your companion through most of the stages. She does a great deal to help take out most of the enemies, and you can even leave her to take on the bosses herself, and she doesn't do a bad job. Just make sure she stays alive though. If she gets taken out, it only puts a bigger target on your back, as soon you'll get swarmed by the rest of the enemies. She rarely gets in the way and is a massive help, and definitely a great addition to the mode. The last thing I want to talk about in the mode is the way the costume items work. Throughout the levels you'll pick up these I can't fucking say the word these crates, which have different items of clothing you can add to your character or Elisa, and they're not just cosmetic either. Each item you gain has a certain stat boost, similar to items in RPGs, giving you more health, letting you do more damage, or increase the chances of power-ups. The only downside is sometimes you have to sacrifice your character looking somewhat normal just to make sure you have the right items applied, and trust me, you need the boost later in the game. It's a great addition, giving the mode another sense of progression, and also playing through with multiple characters unlocks their unique items, which gives you another reason to replay the mode time and time again. This is the one thing that saves Tekken 6 in my opinion. Everything else just seems quite flat and unoriginal, but this mode definitely gives this game a bit of the weird Tekken magic it needs.
Goalkeeper get there first. Oh, it's a penalty, is it?
So even though the game lacks any new single player modes, what it did gain at the time was online play and also a brand new way to play through the story, which offered hours of gameplay and replayability value. Honestly, if it wasn't for the Scenario Campaign, I would have been very disappointed with what Tekken 6 had to offer. If you've watched my previous videos or know anything about the story, you know that the plot of these games is a bit out there to say the least, but in Tekken 6 things take a bit of a strange turn. Instead of the usual throwing sons off cliffs, devils and the fight over a multi-billion-dollar toaster company, the story picks up a few months after the ending of Tekken 5, in which Jin defeats Jinpachi and takes over the Mishima Zaibatsu, where Jin does his best impersonation of a naughty little Austrian man from the 1930s and tries to take over the world, and his reasoning behind this is explained throughout the Scenario Campaign. Even though I've praised the Scenario Campaign earlier in the video, I do think it's also the biggest problem with the game's storytelling. In previous games, the story was told mainly through the intro and characters' prologues, giving you a decent setup to the story. Even though you never really get to know the true ending, you still get to see a lot of different ones that became so memorable and further developed the story of all the characters on the roster. That is all still here in Tekken 6, but they've kind of pushed it to the side to make way for the game's campaign, which sees a brand new character being thrust straight into the Mishima feud and set up as the main protagonist. And I just don't buy it, and I just don't care too much about Lars to take the story seriously. I can only remember a handful of moments from the campaign that were somewhat enjoyable, but me personally, I find Lars quite forgetful and his bond with Elisa a bit strange. I think he's trying to shag a robot, lads. I think the reason this falls so flat on its face is that this is the first time in the series we get a beginning, middle and end to the story, whereas in the past, each new entry would pick up from the last game's canon ending and flesh out the story between both games. Tekken 6 just tells a pretty lacklustre story instead, which never really focuses on the main characters we care about, but instead two new ones. At the time we had no reason to get excited or surprised by certain parts in the game. So yeah, Tekken 6 has probably got the most forgetful plot in the whole series, which is disappointing, seeing as it's the one that had the most time and effort put into it. At this point in the series, the gameplay had been perfected time and time again. By the time we got to Tekken 6, I think the developers thought it was time to add a few more bells and whistles on top just to make the whole gameplay loop a bit more exciting. One of the main things being introduced in Tekken 6 is the feature known as Rage, which has slowly evolved in the series over time. Rage is basically a way for the game to give you a bit of a fighting chance of staying in the match, as it only activates once your health bar reaches a certain point. Once activated, the bar will glow red and you will now do more damage to your opponent per attack, to help level the playing field. It's a good addition and has become part of the series' DNA till this day, making rounds more exciting and making you feel like you're never truly out of the fight. There have been a few tweaks here and there in terms of gameplay and interaction with stages, but by this point in the series, the gameplay was near enough perfect, and Tekken 6 is no exception. For all its downsides, the one thing you can't knock about this game is its gameplay. When it comes to the amount of characters in Tekken 6's roster, no other game in the series at that point would come close, with the game having a massive 40 playable characters. Every single character from Tekken Dark Resurrection returns, with them also adding 6 new ones on top of that. But if I'm being completely honest, Tekken 6 has the worst group of new fighters I've seen in the series. Before you click off the video, please hear me out. In the past we've had the likes of Jin, Hwoarang and Xiaoyu in Tekken 3, Steve, Christy and Marduk in Tekken 4, and Asuka, Feng and Lily in Tekken 5/Tekken Dark Resurrection. And then in Tekken 6 we get Miguel and Bob. Look, don't get me wrong, they're not bad characters, they just aren't as memorable as what we've had in the past, especially Miguel and Leo. The only reason Lars is memorable is because he's been shoved into every story mode since Tekken 6. Elisa is a great unique addition and so is Zafina, so I guess 2 out of 6 ain't bad. I think one of the main reasons I've never really been fond of these new characters is because of another problem that Tekken 6 has: unlocking new characters. Ever since Tekken 1 all the way up until Tekken 5, to unlock the whole roster you would have to play through multiple games of arcade/story mode with multiple characters to get everyone, meaning you'd learn about them through their prologues and endings. But because you now unlock them through the scenario campaign, there's really no need to play as characters you otherwise wouldn't go near. And maybe that's on me for not giving the characters more of a chance, but I feel like the game never really did a good job of introducing them as well as they have in the past. The one thing I am going to praise though is the customisation. It's had a massive upgrade since Tekken 5, with loads of new options and a way better currency system in my opinion. Like I said in the scenario campaign, you'll unlock clothes that will give you boosts, but that is only in that mode. In normal gameplay they're purely cosmetic, meaning you can give your favourite character a bit of your own personal style, or just make them look even more ridiculous than before. Maybe I'm being a little harsh on the new characters, seeing as the series was 15 years old at this point. Coming up with new, interesting characters isn't always easy, but comparing it to what came before and even what came after, I can't help but feel a bit disappointed about what we got. Other than that, 40 fighters on the roster is insane, and the fact that they all have prologues, endings, hundreds of customisation options and unique dialogues in the scenario campaign, I'd be lying if I said I was disappointed by this game's roster overall. Okay then, let's get this over with. This game's stages and music are fucking terrible. That wasn't a joke, they are so boring and drab I could only remember 2 decent ones when thinking of this game. I think Tekken definitely relies on 3 main things to be a good game: gameplay, characters and its stages. These are the 3 things that make or break a Tekken game. Tekken 6 is really good at 2 of those things, but the stages suck the absolute life out of it. They all just look so depressing and grey. I get that the game's set during a world war, but do we really have to fight in a literal pigsty? There are some standouts, but honestly the game as a whole has not only some of the worst stages but also some of the worst music in the series. The music is always the first thing that pops into my head when I think of a Tekken game, but not for Tekken 6. I always felt like the stages and music were always paired perfectly in other games, but in this it feels like they've just been chucked all together and hope for the best. For me the stages have always been an important part of the game, so when most of them look like this, it's just a bit of a letdown. It's not all bad though, here are some I like to call the best of a bad bunch. If I had to pick a favourite, I'd have to say Jin's stage. It has that Tekken 2 aura about it and has a quite unique design. Another thing to add about the stages in Tekken 6, they're the first to feature breakable walls and floors, meaning some stages have multiple rooms and parts to them, whereas some stick to either the infinite approach or walled off stages, giving the player a lot more variety in how they play the game, which I guess is a positive. Over the years I feel like the stages in Tekken almost feel like their own character, bringing something interesting and unique and also setting the tone for the whole game, which in Tekken 6's case makes the game feel depressing, drab and all round forgetful. On to something a bit more positive, Tekken 6's boss fight. It's probably the craziest one yet, and its name is Azazel? Iggy Azalea? Yeah, that's what I'm going with. Iggy Azalea. Iggy is actually the whole reason Jin starts World War III, with it only being awoken once humanity and the world would be filled with enough negative energy, which means we should be expecting it any day now. It is also the origin of the Devil Gene, which plagued Kazuya and Jin, and has almost godlike presence about it. It towers over every single character, and has no sort of human characteristics like Jinpachi or Devil Kazuya. It truly is something from another world, and a great last boss in Tekken 6. It's very similar to Jinpachi, in which I mean at any point Iggy can punish you almost instantly if you're not careful. I do feel like it's easier to beat than Jinpachi, but still a great challenge. A decent strategy to beating Iggy Azalea is to sidestep then attack. It seems that the AI struggles to block this, and is the best way to deal damage, as most of the time it will block everything you throw at it. It's just about picking the right moments to attack, and not getting hit by these spiky bastards in the process. Sadly, just like Jinpachi in Tekken 5, Iggy Azalea isn't playable in Tekken 6, which is probably for the best, because I can only imagine how toxic and unplayable the online would have been if that was the case. There's another side boss you can take on in the arcade mode, this being Nancy, a massive mech which you also get to play as in the campaign. It is super difficult to beat but isn't required to progress through the mode, the main reason being its massive health bar, but if you do manage to beat it, you get a nice little cash prize. I haven't recorded the footage yet, so how did we get on, future me? Didn't go well. One more thing I need to talk about is the characters' endings, which are great as ever, some more serious ones, some carrying on famous feuds, and some just being absolutely hilarious. It's great that we still get endings for all the characters, but I can't help feel they've been pushed to the side, thanks to the main story and the fact that the prologues aren't anywhere near as memorable as the ones we saw in Tekken 4 and Tekken 5, thanks to not having any narration. Also, another thing to note is that the characters' stories are only unlocked through beating them in the scenario campaign, and that is why Devil Jin will forever be locked, because I am not trying that Nightmare Train level ever again. So yeah, sadly the story mode that was so iconic and memorable in Tekken 4 and 5 has been pushed to the side, but it's still there with a great final boss and those classic Tekken endings. This is just a quick one, but I do have to praise the PSP version of this game. Tekken 6 is one of a number of 7th gen games that got ported over to the PSP's aging hardware, but still has little to no compromise on the console original. All the characters return, so do all the stages, and even modes like Gold Rush returning from Dark Resurrection that were absent from the console version. The only thing missing is of course the scenario campaign. Other than that, the PSP port is great and is where I spent most of my time playing Tekken 6. With the characters' endings returning to the classic arcade mode, it was a great way to experience the game, and is also the version chose to be ported to the PS4 and PS5, which is so bizarre but just goes to show how impressive the port of the game actually was. So after going back to a game I never really held in any high regard, has my opinion on it changed? Well, not really. Even though I found the scenario campaign way more fun than I remembered, and realised just how many characters are in this game, it's still missing that thing that makes all Tekken games great, its atmosphere and character. The story was lacklustre and didn't really come anywhere close to what we had in the past, and new characters that were almost as forgetful as the drab, boring stages they fight on. So for me, Tekken 6 will always be the game in the series that just has no character. So that is it for Tekken 6, and obviously I have to put it in the tin. Wait! Right, what do you want? Alright, now look, I know you're not the biggest fan of Tekken 6, but I've just found something out. I don't know if you've told them yet, but in this game you can use the kangaroo. Kangaroo with a flamethrower, yeah. That's, I mentioned that. Oh, you already said that. And you're not going to change your mind about the game? No, not really. Right then. I thought I'd helped. Clearly not. You're just going to be negative. You're going to be a negative Nancy about it. Ha! Wordplay because there's a character called Nancy in it. Dickhead. Anything else to add? I've not really got much else to say about Tekken 6, to be honest. Not the best, is he? Well, I should go. Should leave. Right, why the fuck would you do that? Don't get mad at me, you wrote it into the script. Anyway, let's put Tekken 6 into the tier list, and I'm afraid I'm going to have to put it in C tier. I can't enjoy it. I can't enjoy it as much as the other games that are above it. It's just boring. It's just the stages are so depressing. I can't get over it. It's not enjoyable. It's not a game I was looking forward to going back to. It's quite forgetful, and I know a lot of people feel the same way. But I also know that there's a lot of people who really like Tekken 6, and if you're one of those, please leave a comment down below telling us why you enjoy Tekken 6, why should it be higher on the list. So I love to hear people's different opinions on these games, so if you have a different opinion or the same and you want to talk about it, comment down below. I know a lot of people like to comment on each other's comments and talk about it and discuss it, and yeah, I'd love to see that down below. So what do you think of Tekken 6? Do you actually really like it? Am I being a bit of a knob by hating on it? Leave it down below. But before I go, I just want to say a massive thank you to the support on the Tekken Dark Resurrection video. I was not expecting that response to it at all. I know my videos are slowly starting to pick up in traction and views and all that stuff, but the Tekken Dark Resurrection one was just insane. I was never expecting that many views, likes, comments on it at all. So a massive thank you. I hope a lot of you have come back to see the Tekken 6 video, and if you have, please subscribe. It means a lot to me, and turn notifications on for when I upload the next video. I do try and get them out on Sunday every week, but I might miss that now and again. I know I'm cutting it a bit close today with the Tekken 6 video because I'm still recording it on this day and editing it, so hopefully it's out on Sunday. I really hope so. But yeah, thank you again for the support over the last couple of weeks. It's been insane, and also thanks for watching, and as always, I'll see you when I see you.